I promise. This is our last panel of this edition, and we're diving into how businesses can smartly combine different cloud services, on-premises solutions to achieve greater efficiency, flexibility, and cost savings. Think of it as creating a custom tech strategy that perfectly fits your unique needs, using multiple cloud performers to avoid dependency on one while keeping essential operations in-house for added security control. This is what our next session is about. This fireside chat is titled Multi-Cloud and Hybrid Cloud Architectures, Leveraging the Best of Both Worlds. Please put your hands together for our speakers, Dr. Humberto Noguera, President and CEO of Management Development Systems Corp.
Thank you. Okay. How are you, Satya?
Good.
Let's talk about this. It's a great topic. I know that. Yeah. Well, my name is Humberto Noguera, and I'm a doctor, and also been working in this information IT technology for around 20 years. And I've been seeing how this technology has been, evolving, the evolution. And yeah, pretty much. Let's have a good discussion here. It's a conversation.
Yeah, my name is Satya Krishnasamy. I am founder and president of Chain AIM. My background has been I'm a developer turned architect and executive in the traditional IT space. Last 5-6 years, I've been working on emerging technologies, and I've been working on multiple verticals, including supply chain, trade logistics, academia, and recently healthcare and innovation. And I've also done some work on public blockchains and private blockchains as well. So,
Absolutely. So, cloud, infrastructure, architecture, let's say hybrid or multi-cloud or blockchain. Interesting. So, do you want to elaborate?
yeah. So I saw the panel discussion. Yes, we would like to talk about cloud strategy, multi-cloud strategy, and hybrid cloud strategy. But I also want to extend the conversation not just in the context of a organization, but what happens when you also work with your counterparts in other organizations. And typically, that could be closed loop systems, or it could be blockchain-based systems. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have public blockchains as well. So let's start. Can you touch upon some of your experiences and the environments you have been working on?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on multi-cloud and hybrid?
Yes, Satya. Well, you know, I forgot to mention that I'm a founder and president of Managed Development Systems Corp. And I've started working in these technologies in very early stages. I was a very young person. And I had the opportunity to see this, as I mentioned in the beginning, this technology growing. And I do remember the first time we had virtualization was a virtual PC. Do you remember? With Microsoft. Microsoft developed that virtual PC, and that was kind of a sandbox. It was developed that for us to like a lab environment, like a testing environment for whatever changes or whatever. So nowadays we have from that point now that was a couple of years ago. It's been a while. But now I can see that we have a lot of different technology. We have VMware, for example, just as I mentioned, one, virtualization, and then we have a hypervisor, and we have Hyper-V, etc. I mentioned this because from there, we used to work with, we used to have all our servers on premise, we have them on site, and take care of those servers and, the whole infrastructure. what happened that, as we understand, we have some demographic situation or geographical situation, like hurricanes, for example, back in Florida, and other places. You have different, like natural disaster that can occur. So we start thinking. I do remember taking backup with Acronis, and taking one backup home. Right, one drive home, the other one then, and I was replacing it. That was my cloud system back in the days, and that was a very interesting moment. Anyways, we continue with this evolution, and now we have the cloud systems.
Yeah.
We have a couple of companies there, Microsoft, of course, Azure, which is a great platform, AWS, which is an amazing platform too, and we have a couple more other there. So. But yes, it's interesting. Every time I have a client, for example, a customer, that is, hey, Humberto, we need your help. They call my company, and this is my infrastructure. What do you have? Okay, routing, modern router from the ISP, and that's it. And I have this amount of data, I have this amount of computers, I have this amount of servers. I'm talking about service 23, 28. I'm talking about 2012. And, we got ransomware.
Okay.
Or I got this later loss. We had a share folder. And I don't know, suddenly everybody deleted everything. We didn't have any shadow copies, any, disaster recovery strategy or standard operation procedure in place. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to talk about governance. We're going to talk about policies. Yeah. So just long story short, now we have these interesting options. We have we are arriving to a third option right now. So we have the hybrid. You can still have your servers and manage and your domain controllers and your systems on site, but also you have this hybrid option. Like, for example, if you have people working in other parts of the world, you want them to access your servers, your applications, your network. You have obviously your VPN, but you can also allow them to access your network information through Active Directory, SSO, through Microsoft Azure, which is that was very amazing. Now AWS have something called IAM. No. IAM, right? So and actually they work together, and that's part of the multi-cloud, because we can have both worlds. You can have Azure and AWS working together.
Yeah. So in my traditional jobs, this was pretty much the same trajectory as well, right? So to start, I think 2003, 2004, completely in-house systems, slowly explored multiple cloud offerings, and then eventually it was predominantly AWS that we decided on. But it again depends on the kind of application, the kind of your geographical jurisdictions you work on, the compliance requirements that they come along with it. And in my experience, anything that is not very sensitive in the application area, the public clouds will solve the purpose. And even if you want to have that connectivity, and if your customer base needs to be into another cloud because of how your offerings is interacting with their offerings, and the diversity of your client base, and the kind of products you're putting out and its governance structures, maybe the multi-cloud strategy has worked. The question really comes where what is your control plane you're going to look at to say, where are these applications, what is the end-to-end flow, what are the observability angles of it. But once you get past that layer into sensitive data, regulatory data, there, I would say, if people say private or enclaved data, right? That they basically are saying, even if I do have an AWS system, it's the virtual private cloud which is completely controlled by the infrastructure and the DevOps people of the company. They need that control structure to make sure the checks and balances are in place.
Share responsibilities.
Right.
AWS.
Yeah. And secondly, over time, AWS matured as well with the zoning capabilities, your business continuity plans, and things like that. And they also matured from this business associate agreements type of a thing that is very important in regulated environments if you're dealing with data in some situations like healthcare data and things like that. That is typically the situation now. Most companies are moving to cloud in a cautious way, and that technically constitutes a hybrid cloud.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed. And if you allow me to elaborate a little bit, there is the hybrid. It's interesting because and this is because of compliance. For example, in finance, if you're in the financial industry, and as an example, talking about infrastructure and the architecture of this, let's say that you have a management document system, and quote to quote, just to say something, not Ignite or any other one, right? But you are under this finance institution, you are under the PII.
I'm good.
Okay, PIA and DS, and which is the compliance there. So they are actually enforcing you to have a copy that is cloud-based. That management document system is cloud. It's cloud-based. So, but now they enforce you to bring the data and have it on site for audit. So you should have that data, even though you have everything in the cloud and everything can access it through the cloud, and it's like it's amazing. It's private. It looks like SharePoint or something like that, but you have retention policies. You can do you can follow your data, etc. Audit, etc. So, but now they're enforcing you, and I was in charge of actually I create that server. Using a specific rate, Anyways, the thing is like there's some compliance that are forcing the companies to have the data there if they need it like today.
Okay.
And that is basically in the hybrid part. In the multi cloud, let me add something else there. It's interesting. I've been in multiple companies and clients there. They have a NAS network, that's a NAS system, NAS server, with a couple of disks, and running Synology, Linux. And
most likely they are not heavily regulated, I would assume.
Well, that was the situation. They called me for that reason because they become public, and now they have a situation with the auditors.
Okay.
But this is the thing. It was a NAS, but the NAS was doing everything. It was a web server. The NAS was a backup server, the snapshot server. And apart from that, they were using Microsoft Azure. So this is a good example of a multi-cloud service because they have S3. They have an S3 with AWS to transfer the data, with the key from the Synology device to there. And then they were having this backup way, and they were using G Suite for as Exchange server, as an email server, plus the. Can you see the multi-cloud, multi-situation there? The architecture of that infrastructure was very interesting. So, you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I can easily see that. I mean, again, it comes back to like, even if you're running all those, how complex or simple, how geographically you're located, and what compliance mean to you in different jurisdictions becomes most important, or some of the variables that you need to think through while you're putting out those architectures, and carefully make sure that from an audit perspective you have internal audit processes as well on a thorough basis.
No, absolutely. And the migration, because we were going to, I'm going to have my domain controller only on site, then we're going to move everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it was a situation, good luck migrating something from G Suite that is not, the usernames are not matching in the Active Directory, then you have to move it to Exchange. So there's kind of things, those kind of challenges that we have there. So, but moving forward about the data, and now we have this hybrid, which is the most common, small business, medium business, big business, like huge companies, like can mention a couple of them. They have like clusters and clusters.
Now, I'm also seeing I've been involved in a little bit of work that extended our organization, right? Typically, these are SSOs or APIs when you're really not having a single copy of the data between your companies. But one of the things that as we got into network-based ecosystems on the distributed ledger rails, it kind of increases this cloud architecture question to another level. So I have some experience about it. I can touch upon a few points because that kind of dovetails into how you should start thinking about your cloud architectures. So in our example, we have worked with private blockchains, which are primarily you have one server on one company will have to connect to another server on another company, right? Now, how do you do that, right? Now, do you connect on-prem to on-prem, or on-prem to cloud, or cloud to cloud? And this is assuming all of your participants is going to be on that one blockchain. But we all know that's not reality. You will have a food blockchain, you will have a pharmacy blockchain, you have, these consortiums were coming all over the place. Now you really needed to understand how does this operate when you have a multi-cloud, multi-blockchain situation. That is if it is all private. By private, what I mean is you
dedicated.
You restrict the access, you check the certificates, and you say who can participate, who can not participate. And then on the left-hand side, there is a wild west on the public blockchains, which is literally how do I say that, right? This is one of those nodes that participate, in consensus mechanisms. They process these transactions and improve the order of the transactions and things like that. In that part of the world, there's a lot of innovations happening, but mostly they are so far has been simple use cases. But slowly I'm seeing those systems are starting to tackle higher complexity use cases as well.
I like this. This third option we have here, the blockchain. Well, when I was analyzing the actual model of the blockchains, how it works, it reminds me like the TCP/IP protocol. It reminds me like when you start creating package and sending package from point A to point B, and how we convert with the header, the destination, the source, the package encrypted, and then you create the packet and you send this packet at that level. That packet level.
I can easily relate to that. So if you look at any blockchain work, right? You don't call them as companies. You don't call them as anything else. Most of them are protocols. So basically, this is how will one system work to another system, anticipate the response to the counter response, and finally settle on what the intermediation is to say that's the golden copy of record. How it does it, the mechanisms might differ from one implementation to another implementation, and how many rounds of these negotiations happen. But that's the basic essence of it.
It's the same logic, like the one before, but with a new hash. It is a very complex hash in security there, and that's the other thing about this technology. It's not new. I mean, it basically
distributed systems were never new. It's just a question of how to tie them with the economic security mechanisms. has been the underlying change in how this technology has taken a new dimension. And from my point of view, it's as simple as this, right? First generation things were about databases are faster, blockchains are not faster, right? But that's not the right question to ask. The real right question to ask is, what are you meaningfully sharing with your counterparty, and that does that data really have to move? Because the more movement of data, you're opening up for more and more things. And even in healthcare, you will probably hear things like minimally needed data, right? And all those controls and procedures.
HIPAA.
And that is where, if we can program something where the data movement can be as less as possible, and then the trust-based system can actually take over. And again, from you're not going to put everything on the blockchain, because depending upon what type of it is, you probably will have to run a whole bunch of chain and only have that layer to minimal data that is needed to interact with your other parties.
Absolutely. I've been reading a couple of articles about, and I'm familiar with. I know that it started with a Bitcoin, and there was everybody was about blockchain.
Yeah.
That is the same concept, and I strongly believe, and I was reading some important and validated, qualified documents there, that it's the future. It's the future.
Those technologies and economic models will evolve, but my focus for this panel is really bringing it back to the cloud architecture behind it. The problem with the current state of the blockchains is, even if you look at the Ethereum implementation, the infrastructure they rely on internally are still the AWS systems wherever these nodes are running. Indeed. So that means there is still a chance of a centralization potential, even in how decentralized are these blockchains. That becomes a question even on the public side, right? But then there are protocols that are now coming up at every layer. At the storage layer, you can, instead of storing it in one place, right, it is truly decentralized across a number of computers. The only issue is latency right now, but slowly improving. But the idea is, think of every layer to be really decentralized, and once the scalability improves, you will have much robust systems possible out of it. And one other thing is the regulated environments questions, coming back to it. It is technically, I think it is not the private blockchains, it's not the public blockchains. I think people are still going to graduate step by step. And I think subnets are the next thing I'm expecting to make a lot of buzz in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, okay. That word, decentralized.
Subnets, yes, where you can start in a private mode, but then if you want to be private, you can be private. But if you want to really extend it to the public blockchains, these subnets will be in a position to help you design it in such a way you're flexible enough to move forward.
Yeah, and we were talking about some industries earlier. We were saying, we have a different industry, for example, pharmaceutical. We have a situation there. If you go to Title 21 CRF, you will see that that's an FDA regulated environment, and that regulate data integrity, that regulate all the systems that actually are in the production manufacturing area. And how are you going to manage that information? And they have audit trail, they have audits, and basically the whole controls actually for the data. So now you have that situation there with that compliance. If we move a little bit with HIPAA, or if we move a little bit with the PII, and PCI, with the POS, etc. So the thing is, decentralization. I like it, and you mentioned two things: decentralization and delay. So we were talking earlier about the AWS or other platforms that there's some sort of situation that what happens if you need your data now? You will have to request the data. They have different plans for that. And the decentralization part, Satya, where is your data located?
Yeah, so if you're so worried about the latency, I will have to say these systems have some more ways to go to get to that thing. But I'm looking at it's a compromise between your decentralization, scalability, and security type of things. But different implementations have done it in different design trade-offs, and we are seeing how much if you want to have a faster system, that is possible. But how you communicate and how you arrive at that common understanding of the data that you're putting onto the chain could be having different flavors. It's interesting how this area is emerging. That economic security between what you're putting on chain, but I still think this is not a silver bullet on anything. It has to stay with all the other data that you have, and the privacy enhancing technologies, and being able to do the computation on encrypted data. These will be the next layer of innovations that we can expect to see. And in that context, my great suggestion for people starting to think about these cloud architectures is to be able to not just think about what we have now, and also think about what the systems might look like. And this space is emerging very fast.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, AWS, everything it's encrypted. In AWS, everything
the centralized cloud systems are encrypted, but the same kind of things is now possible even on the decentralized systems. And even with all the progress AI is making, I do see a day where the distributed AI becomes much more important of a topic, because meaning, let's say you are one entity and I'm another entity. I run my models on my data, you run your models on your data. But then if you have to double corroborate the data, or if you don't want to move the data but move the weights to understand the insights, right? It still has to be done in a privacy protected way, and it has to be done so that you don't re-identify the data. So these are all things which eventually has impact to what your requirements on your cloud architectures will be. And the idea is to say, when you're designing your hybrid architectures, set yourselves up for flexible reconfiguration.
Absolutely. Good point. Flexible reconfiguration. Because even though, actually AWS is moving faster on encryption, and they also have a new system that can help you to be in compliance. You can actually modify AWS and say, hey, I am doing this. I belong to this industry, and my compliance is PCI, PCI or PII, and yeah, they have the template and everything. They can help your system to be in compliance. Yep. Indeed, I have a concern. It's something that I've been thinking about. We've been talking in this forum, in this conference, a lot about artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence is amazing, what are we doing, the future, etc. Satya, it's a concern. It's a personal concern. This is getting like artificial intelligence doing a lot of stuff here that about security. What about the hash we're using? And that's my concern. I mean, we know that artificial intelligence can do multiple things there, and it's not concerning that they can probably focus on breaking the hash or...
You're talking about systems like from a security point of view?
Yeah, not human, but in your blockchain.
Oh, okay. So, see, blockchain security from a if you're talking about the basic ECDC architectures to be, how long can it go? What are the other quantum mechanics type things that could come in, quantum computing come in? Those encryption mechanisms are evolving. I think that's one area that is already evolving, not a problem. the issue is about, with AI, my most important issue is about judicious use of the compute resources. Because as cool as these technologies are, as cool as you can run them, some of the costs can be offloaded based on who already pre-trained the model and how that pre-training is equally applicable to your model. It could still rake up your compute if you're not careful about it. That's one element of AI, right? And the other element of AI is, what are you doing it on, right? If you're doing it on data that is not highly integral, then the question is becoming, what are the insights coming out of it going to be, and what is the vetting process towards it? So data integrity means different things to different industries. If you just look at a NLP corpus type of a thing, whatever we are talking about, oh, Gemini did this, Gemini did that, okay, that's fine. But in the context of a business process, like a regulated industry, like the kind of industries we are talking about, I think there is an element of understanding the guardrails and say, what is a framework that is responsible enough to understand the possibilities, the limitations, the cost. And there again, I'm expecting breakthroughs the next few years continuously. For the cost will go down. That has been the lineage so far. But it should still be judicious to say, where am I now? Where am I? What is the judicious use of this at this point in time? Where will it be in 12 months from now, 24 months from now? And you have to start thinking about that in a holistic manner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can imagine right now a IT manager or a decision-making vice president IT or something thinking, okay, I have this infrastructure here, and how can we get how can get this more secure? How can how can I be in compliance with my policies, etc. But also, this is the thing, cloud is the terminology, the famous terminology here is another personal computer. You're moving all your data in
I agree and disagree because even that's the thing, right? In regulated environments and the hybrid setting, it is still your checks and it's still your balances, right? And it's still your cost.
And that's my point, because and I'm glad you say that, because if you go to AWS, sharing responsibility, etc., they tell you, okay, I am responsible if the data is if my servers, I mean my platform, but if you're sending something, you are responsible to encrypt it. I mean, you are responsible to actually, if you are working actually in some ECM elastic servers, EC2s, you are responsible for the encryption between those communications.
It is true. It is true that is what the omnibus rules in healthcare says, right? In other words, if you are a covered entity, then you are as liable as the primary entity if you're a person providing service. But I think the point is, the onus of the governance is still within the DevOps organization or whatever governance structure, cloud governance structure that you have, that is really going to be ultimately responsible. And they are the ones that can even say, I mean, there are some basic governance you'll get from off-the-shelf stuff, but particularly in hybrid environments, you are taking the primary ownership. So
yeah, most of the time, yeah. Well, and let's see. I think that we can agree that this is hybrid is probably, or
hybrid gives you the flexibility, because we are in my mind we are in a very interesting phase of time. Again, it all depends on which industry you are and things like that, but I'm assuming most complex businesses or regulated businesses, what you might have done, cloud migration or on-prem cloud or on-prem cloud VPC and another VPC, right? A type of thing.
Yes.
Be prepared to extend this to the next layers of your whichever ecosystem or supply chain you're going to touch, because the emergence I see on the blockchain side of things is whatever started in public blockchains, they are gravitating towards enterprise blockchains. Whatever came out of private blockchains, they are saying, oh, I still might need some portions of it that I need to rely on public blockchains. And then the institutions are getting serious about this now, right? So they really want to harness this technology as well, but it is going to be a long road. But you'll have to be prepared. You will have to be prepared to participate in that kind of an advancement, be it a big company, be it a small company, or be it an individual. You'll have multiple ways of interacting, either operating your own nodes or looking for other participants that provide that node service. Because you have to eventually look for where your customers are going to be, and they might not be where they are now, because these communities that are forming, we are seeing a big shift in where these communities are.
Absolutely. Actually, after, now that you mentioned that, it's interesting. After COVID-19, I remember before COVID-19, everybody, no, I have my servers here, I have a router, a modem. Well, small companies, other companies, they're always, being very responsible. I connect this through a MPLS or SD-WAN, and we are connected. We don't, that's my own. Actually, I don't know if you remember, they started like something called like a private cloud system that basically was a server, like a SharePoint server that you had in a call house center, in a call center, and you will be able to communicate, right? So that's the situation. So the point is that I used to work with one of those systems, and it was a complication, because you cannot upload, download, or something because of the rules, etc. So yes, cloud's been, helping us a lot on this one. But now after COVID-19, things change.
Yeah.
Many companies were calling me, were getting crazy. Hey, everybody is remote, and I have a firewall, and I have a VPN, and I say firewall, and I don't have license. And so, how can we connect all these people working from home? Where is my data? I don't have a federation configuration server. I don't have a radius configuration. How can they RDP or remote connect, etc., remote control, get into the actual network? So that's why they started moving slowly to hybrid. That's what I can see in the market right now.
Okay. You can. Do you have some benchmarks out of Microsoft?
Yeah, they changed the name. They actually got the SSO. It's working with AWS. Yes, Entra. Okay. So, can you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
See, the definition of the hybrid concepts are the way to think about it, right? It would be even if it is a virtual private cloud that you're putting out, right? It is still in the context of governance is where we are more worried about. In other words, right? It's really about tomorrow if there is an audit, right? Who can clearly run it end to end? Whether you kept it completely on-prem, or even if it is your cloud service that, in particularly your cloud latencies, depending upon how you measure whether this identification system is good or bad, right? If it is a notion of latency or throughputs or your availability numbers that you have to hit and things like that. That is one part of the equation, but the rather more important part of the equation from our perspective is really the governance behind it. So if something went wrong, right, who had the full audit structure behind it? Right, and this is what in our experiences we have seen. Right, you have to have a huge number of provenances to say this is exactly what had happened. And I'm not a Microsoft expert per se, but in general, I've seen the Google models. In the Google model, there is a huge emphasis on zero trust kind of platforms.
Yes.
Right. So what happens is basically the default assumption is you don't have the permission to do something. So from your ID to the privileges you get is kind of like a iteratively added on type of a thing. Okay, so what happens in this context is you'll be in a position to prove that you had done all the due diligence to say you were compliant, right? So even if there is a possibility of the benchmarking numbers are not as you're expecting, right? For example, if you're comparing one cloud versus another cloud, in my point of view, that is just a transitory thing. This whole cloud latency and even blockchain latency is whatever we're talking about today is probably not even valid in 3 months from now, because all of these are moving in breakneck speeds. Even in the VPC, you could, as long as your access mechanisms are correctly mapped. And I'm very familiar with how it works in GCP and how you define your organization structures and your zero trust policies. That's what is more important.
I would like to add something. Also, AWS and AWS AM, they can help you to actually audit. And if you are like a root user, you're able to, perform audits to the specific users. Now, if this is hybrid, you can have a VPC with EC2s and everything configured there with your servers, etc., virtual servers. But also, my question is, that's the thing, Satya. Every single case is different. It's a single, situation, singular situation. For example, are we talking about you have a Windows servers, for example? If you have in your infrastructure you have a Windows server, so you have a domain controller, you can have an Active Directory and you can control the actual, authentication and authority and the whole members and permissions and groups, etc. Which also you can use Microsoft Azure to do that, and it can help you very well. Yes, they changed the name. It used to be Azure AD. That's what I was saying. Yes, they used to call it. That was the actual Azure Active Directory.
Okay.
They changed it to something because they have now. This is the situation. They say Azure AD, but you don't do 100% what you can do in the domain controller. Now they're moving to that. New stage, a new layer. Now you can control more because now you can work with Exchange directly. You don't need to change password here or there or to the email. You just change password in one place and your Active Directory on your domain controller if you have it on premise and send on your site, and then it's going to replicate and then it's going to change everywhere. So yes, interesting question. I appreciate that. I didn't understand it very well, but yes.
Okay.
That depends on your infrastructure. Depends on what you have.
And talking about IDs, I want to add one more point there. Okay, we have seen system IDs, network IDs, right? But there is a huge movement now. It is going on self-sovereign IDs. These are decentralized IDs that are attached to you as a person, right? In other words, it's not your Azure ID, it's not your Google ID, it is your ID, right? It's basically, and then I see a day where things will harden around that on the security perspective, and the cloud architectures adapt to it.
Yeah, that works like the Bitcoin or this technology. They work like that. You have the agency ID.
I don't confuse cryptocurrencies with blockchain.
But it's the same.
It's kind of the same, but I see a huge amount of. This is not a. I'm talking about IDs where entire nations are thinking about putting their citizens' data on chain, right? And how do you do that, right? So basically, you ascertain an ID so that you can, when you come on chain, you'll be able to. Everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, in AWS we call it key roles. We can add, and there's actually a key management. You can actually add specific keys to specific roles. It is your key, is your ID.
That's another area where I'm thinking one of the common complaints we have on blockchain systems is, it's so complex. Managing the private keys is complex. Yes. The IDs are I can't figure out what this is and things like that. I see progress now that is coming. How do I take something in a Web 2 system to kind of make it easy to navigate the Web 3 system? I think that area will evolve as well.
Absolutely. But yes, we hope we answer your question. Okay. So yeah, as I said, it's different. Every single client, every single company has a different system.
If you are in that IT architect, ID management roles, I think the one takeaway I would suggest is look at today's needs, but also look at tomorrow's needs and possibilities, and keep it in such a way that, believe me, these systems are moving at a very, very high rate, be it on AI models developing or on-chain systems developing, or a combination of what you have in your enterprise systems to communicate with either other cloud systems or blockchain systems. And take it to the next level, how your AI models are going to talk to who your other parties that you're working with, their AI models in a regulated environment. That's really where this is going to go in the next few years.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good.
All right.
So
that's a good way of thinking, right? So if you really, by no means I'm saying this is all going to be available very soon, but these are all where what has to fall in place before serious use cases can realize their full potential. Otherwise, we are just talking about, hey, this can be done, that can be done, right? And it will work in point cases, right, here and there, right? But it will not move to the point of saying I can onboard 1 billion people on these systems.
Not now. Not still. So, well, conclusion, hybrid. People is moving to hybrid. We have a couple of solutions there, platforms that are very useful.
Maximum flexibility.
Maximum flexibility.
Maximum flexibility, highly compliant.
Exactly. And security.
And security.
Security. Well, thank you, Syed. Syed, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Give it up for our speakers one last time. They did great. Well, this marks the end of our Internet 2.0 conference. So this is it for the 2024, but before we part ways, we have thrilling news. The agendas for our Dubai Winter 2025 edition in Las Vegas, and also Dubai as well. You're going to find information on the website. We have impressive lineups of speakers, and I assure you that the next installments will bring a wealth of experiment, excites, and partnership opportunities. We look forward to these events. Remember that the journey of discovery and collaboration continues, and visit our booth near registration desk for more information. We would like to give a heartfelt thank you to our VAA Industry Gold sponsor and your unwavering support. I've been Kay Banks, and it has been a pleasure to be your host, and I will hopefully see you guys next year. Have a good time. Bye.